Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and welcome to day 26 of the Art of Keith Jarrett, where we're looking at a different aspect of his musicianship and outlook on music each day for 31 days. And the real goal is how we can help ourselves as musicians too, right? We appreciate what he's done, but really put it into action in our own way, just as he took what he learned from other musicians and by studying and found his own approach, right? It's the approaches that are the interesting thing, not necessarily just trying to play like somebody else, right? Because it's about continuing the tradition for ourselves. Today I'd like to look at something that's kind of obvious, but not everybody talks about, that he has tended to use the same musicians in his bands for a long time. You know, after he left Miles Davis and Charles Lloyd and set out for his own career, Jarrett had two famous groups in the early days. One was known as the American Quartet, and then the other one was the European Quartet. And they stayed together for like decade each, or whatever it was. And then, but it was the same musicians, tight-knit group. And then the so-called Standards Trio with Jack DeJohnette and Gary Peacock for decades, you know, from the mid-'80s through like 2014 or something like that. You know, long time. And Jarrett made relatively few appearances or collaborations with other musicians in the jazz world in that time. You know, like one or two. You know, like. You know, it's very unusual, right, for someone that long to only play with a small group. I remember one time there was an interview where someone asked him about that. Like, why do you play with these two musicians all the time, DeJohnette and Gary Peacock? Why not play with someone else? And, you know, he gave a very plausible answer. He said something like, you know, we know each other so well. You know, it just works. It works so well. And he said if I started working with someone else, it would take decades to get to the same point. You know, hey, point taken, right? And of course, there's something great to staying with the same musicians. It becomes like you're just one unit, right? Working, if you've ever worked with the same musician for a long period of time, or gone back to somebody you played with a long time ago, sometimes it just feels like they're part of the family, right? Oh, I can do this, and I know they're going to do that. And it just, you don't have to think, right? On the other hand, I'm going to, that's the pros and now the cons. And this is just my opinion, right? It's almost like sometimes it limits you, you know? So as much as Jarrett is known for going out of his comfort zone with the solo piano and all that, and by truly improvising without a safety net, so to speak, it's almost like he didn't go out of his comfort zone with other musicians, you know? And I'm wondering, like, what would it have been if, you know, the Keith Jarrett Trio did a concert and recording with Sonny Rollins or Wayne Shorter, you know, or something like that. You know, you know, who knows? But it just might have, you know, brought something out in his playing that wasn't there and wasn't always there, you know, or you know, I'd love to hear Jarrett accompanying on the couple of things he did, you know, the early stuff. So it's kind of the pros and cons to working with the same musicians all the time, and then just, okay, we'll add a saxophone, or, you know, the one album at the Deerhead Inn where Jack DeJohnette couldn't make it, so he had Paul Motian play bass, drums rather. That was totally different playing than some of the other stuff he had done, you know, on Basin Street Blues, and had a different feel, right? Or just the fact that, you know, to play in a club once in a while, like at the Blue Note, playing different than he did in concerts. And if I had to say anything about the using the same musicians all the time, I think it would have been interesting. And it's just not a criticism at all, right? We all have our things, but for us, let's try to sometimes work with different musicians as we now also work with the same musicians over time, and see the difference in what it brings out in our playing in both situations. So thanks for being here for this exploration of the musicians Jarrett has worked with, and put it into practice ourselves, right? Trying different playing situations and cultivating a steady group when we can. There's pros and cons to both. So thanks for being here. good luck with your playing, and I'll see you in video 27, day 27. Take care.